Hi, I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge, and welcome to Help Ease Your Clients' Adult Sibling Rivalry. 5 ways to help your clients let go of resentment and jealousy. So a client of mine, I'll call Joan, couldn't have been more candid about her sister, and she told me that she just couldn't stop resenting her. And Joan told me, sadly, that her sister, Sally, had always been the bright one and the gifted one. And suddenly, Joan's 73-year-old face took on an almost infant grimace, because it was obvious my parents, she said, considered her, Sally, the pretty one. And Joan said, I love her, but when I see her now, I just feel this horrible envy, even after all these years. And it was clear that sibling rivalry had cast its bitter shadow across Joan's entire lifetime. And as she sort of waxed unhappily about her love-hate sister relationship, I was reminded uncomfortably of the 1962 psychological thriller Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, in which 2 aging sisters live together in mutual enmity. And now, of course, all relationships can be complicated, but sibling ones all the more so sometimes. So Joan still felt her sister was more popular even now, more showy, a better cook, professionally more accomplished, and had aged better than she had. And I asked Joan what she wanted, and she told me that she knew this envy was irrational and that she just wanted to stop caring. She wanted to accept her sister as she is, and herself as she is as well, which I think was a good therapeutic goal, and it kind of summed it up pretty neatly. The truth is that sibling rivalry can be complex. Love and envy, affection and resentment can and often do coexist within one relationship, but they make uncomfortable and messy bedfellows. But just where is the line between siblings sort of jostling and outright no-holds-barred rivalry? Many, perhaps most siblings compete to some extent, and I saw some research recently that the more siblings you have and the closer in age they are, the more your mental health suffers. The researchers thought that this might be because of less parental attention available and more fierce competition for that limited attention. Although I imagine having plenty of siblings close in age might also confer some benefits, like helping youngsters develop skills in negotiation, communication, and the opportunity to appreciate differences and enjoy healthy competition. But who knows? Every family is different. But anyway, hopefully and ideally, feelings of unfairness and undue competition drop away with the years. And the siblings may grow closer or further apart, but generally the sense of acute comparison with one's siblings is hopefully replaced by mature feelings that no longer keep us hooked into the past. So if we think about sibling rivalry, what exactly are siblings competing for? Well, firstly, as I sort of mentioned, it's attention. Attention from parents or others is a scarce resource, and there isn't a limitless supply of attention from others, for me, for you, or anyone. And we all need attention. Just as with any need, such as food, some of us are pretty good at getting by on just enough attention, while some of us feel we need a constant supply. And perhaps if it has been scarce in the past, we're more likely to cling to it jealously and feel insecure that it may be withdrawn from us at any time. So Joan felt all the love and the praise and focus had been on her talented, shining star, as she put it, of a sister. Joan's childhood had passed, but the hurt hadn't passed. And she told me that she felt like she was still competing. She said, it's crazy, but I still feel I'm trying to compete with her. If she's been on vacation, I have to let her know that my vacation was just as good as hers. If she's read a novel by a particular author, I want to show her I've read many books by that author too. It's pathetic, she said. What was impressive, though, was Joan's level of insight. She understood her psychology and what she was doing, but this knowledge had so far not really helped her feel better about and around her sister Sally. It did seem, though, that it wasn't just childhood or retrospective perception that Jo's parents had lavished more attention on her younger sister Sally. It really did seem that they had. And in a sense, she had every right to feel cheated, shortchanged by a world that seemed to value Sally's attributes more than hers. So why would parents give one child more attention than another? Well, there's the idea of the special child. So parents may inadvertently and unconsciously favor one child over another for all kinds of reasons. Maybe that child was the firstborn or lastborn, or proves to be good at something the parents always dreamed that they'd be good at themselves. I remember one mother cooing that her youngest daughter had the musical talent of which she herself had always dreamed. And parents can often assign roles to their children, so Sarah's the sensible one, John's the clever one, Sam's the difficult one, and so on. So the special child may use bad behavior as a way of cheating extra attention out of their parents. Or if they're ill or have special needs as a result of some, condition, they may simply and inevitably require more attention from their parent. Their siblings may resent them for this and feel guilty for that resentment, or perhaps the favored child, whether the parents would ever consciously admit that child was favored or not, simply seems to inhabit the qualities most valued by the parents. Perhaps they're more academic or physically attractive or sporty. If these attributes are prized by a parent, then the child who most seems to inhabit these qualities may be unfairly prized by the parents. And children are especially attuned to unfairness. Why is it okay for them but not for me? Siblings can resent the fact that it seems that what's expected and allowed for their sibling isn't for them. One client told me that he felt that his parents admired his brother for traveling the world and doing exactly as he wanted, whereas whenever he tried to go his own way, they'd frown upon it. He described his brother as always having been the golden child and the blue-eyed boy who can do no wrong. I asked Joan how she felt her parents had viewed her, and she told me that her parents really did love her, but that they saw her as the sort of klutz of the family, the dumb and silly one who was dowdy but could sometimes make people laugh. It's like, she said, they put most of their energy into Sally because she was going to be someone in her life. And it can be all too easy to be as we feel we're expected to be. Sort of role play can also play a part in different treatment from parents for different children. When other people concoct roles for us, we can quite easily come to play out those roles. We can, of course, also rebel against those roles, especially in adolescence. Yet the roles assigned to us and which we play in childhood can determine our behavior for decades, especially in relation to our families. If we even subconsciously feel we've been labeled, we may even years later find ourselves saying stuff like, you were always the clever, sensible, charming, pretty one, or I'm just not clever, brave, or outgoing. We may have come to see our role and our siblings' role as distinct and stuck, unchangeable, as though cast in stone. What's more, we can slide back into roles as though through a kind of regression once we find ourselves within family dynamics again. I suspect sibling rivalry happens more often than many care to admit. And although it may not be the presenting issue with clients, it may often be a factor in their current unhappiness. So here's 5 strategies that I used with Joan that may help you with clients who exhibit sibling rivalry. So here goes. Tip 1, help your client transcend their role or their label. Joan felt her parents and sisters saw her as dowdy, lightweight and superficial. I asked her if there was any counter evidence to these perceptions, and she thought for a moment and admitted that her mother had expressed pride in Joan before she died, and that she had felt her parents had at last come to accept her choice of artistic career. I asked her if there'd been times in her life when she'd thought of or done anything profound and meaningful. And again, she was pensive before replying, yes, I nursed my first husband through his final illness. I know he appreciated me so much, and I was good at caring for him in his final months. I suggested that this didn't sound lightweight or superficial. And she agreed that it was not, So we can ask our clients to delineate the role they feel they played or were handed within their childhood family dynamic, and then ask them to generate or even simply imagine the possibility of a transcendent role, perhaps one their parents never even suspected. Tip 2, help them celebrate their uniqueness. Another important step is to help our clients constantly remember that, as obvious as it might sound, only they can be them. I'm often struck by how different siblings are to one another, naturally. So brothers and sisters can sometimes seem polar opposites in their characters. It seems that nature needs all kinds of different types of people to populate the planet and scatters all these different characteristics amongst siblings. Look around at siblings that you know, and so often you might be amazed that they're even related. It's as though the universe needs different types of people. I suggested to Joan, as she relaxed deeply in hypnotic trance, that not all bees can or should be queens or workers, just as not all people are meant to be accountants or dancers or maths whizzes, Perhaps nature scatters different types of people into the world because different types of people are needed and valuable. I asked Joan Socratically how life would be if she'd simply been a carbon copy of her sister. We're all the sum of not just our personalities, but our pasts. So we may also need to deal with some difficult memories. So tip 3, help undo any knots from the past. I asked Joan if there were any painful memories that stood out for her as exemplifying the way she now felt about and around her sister. And she told me several, but one that really stuck with her was when she'd been around 9 or 10 and just before being asked by a distant relative to sing a song that she'd been learning at school and had been referred to by her mother as the silly one. And she remembered feeling embarrassed and not being able to recall the song. And Joan found that she sometimes got a similar feeling now, many decades later, around her sister, or even when people referred to her sister. I helped her unhook this faulty pattern match, so the memory no longer played upon her, and her unconscious responses could update, as it were. Now, there are many different methods we can use to help our clients resolve the effects of past emotional conditioning. And we can't undo the past, but sometimes we can undo its effects on us. But we also need to know how your client wants to be in relation to their sibling, not just what they don't want, but what they actively do want. So tip 4, help your client negotiate a new adult relationship with their sibling. I asked Joan how she felt and tended to be around her sister now. And she studied the wall behind me, lost in thought for a while, and then she said, to be honest, I tend to be a bit passive-aggressive with her. She added quickly, it's a bit unkind because she's really supportive of me now, but it's as though I just revert back to when we were kids, feeling resentful, but also slightly in awe of her. Every time I see her, I feel uncertain, dowdy, incompetent, and jealous. But I never usually feel like that in everyday life, not around my sister. So when people tell me how they feel around someone, I ask them how they want to feel. And Joan had never really considered that before. Eventually, she said she wanted to feel valuable, calm, and in touch with the strengths I know I have, she said, when she was with her sister Sally, or even just thinking about her sister. So now it was time really to get practical. So tip 5, help your client rehearse feeling different. So I encouraged Joan to hypnotically expand a sense of her own unique self with all her strengths and potentials and unique positive traits. While she was feeling those traits fully, I suggested she strongly imagine being with her sister whilst feeling connected to all her own positive traits, feeling good, grounded, calm, and wonderfully accepting of both herself and her sister. This was much easier once we'd worked on unburdening her of some of the worst memories of feeling second best to her sister as a child and young adult, which I talked about in tip 3. So Joan didn't feel she needed to forgive her parents. As she said, they were just being who they were. But Joan was able to see the good they'd done for her too, and not just feel resentful. So ultimately, she was excited to develop a new sense of closeness with her sister after so long. After all, she told me, we're acorns from the same tree, even if every acorn is unique in its own way. So I hope you found that useful, and if you did, please hit like and subscribe. And if you want to hear when my next video is published, hit the notification bell below. I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge, and if you'd like to subscribe to my email newsletter, you can find it over at unk.com/blog. And thanks for watching.